Hi everyone, so I thought today we'd look at a few different methodologies for practice working on things at home. So the first thing I've done is I've taken one of my dummy arms out and I've just got one. So this represents, if you haven't got a dummy at home, anything you can sort of rig up to practice on that's fairly solid. So what I thought I'd talk about is how when you practice, one thing I've noticed when I've sort of been slightly eyeing people practicing off in the corner trying to work on a technique, I notice a lot of times that people try to do everything at once. So they try to perform the technique with everything perfect. So correct energy, the correct position, correct use of body mechanics, you know, from your hips and torque and turning, correct balance, correct use of energy, whether you're, you know, supporting from the elbow or elbow and wrist, you know, just everything that goes into the technique to make it correct and functional. People try and practice it all together, but that's very difficult. So what I'd recommend is break down what's in the technique and isolate it, which is a common practice thing to do. One thing that people might not practice so much is the path a technique takes. So, for example, if you're practicing Tan Sao in Sunim Tao, rather than throw it out with energy, so I'm thinking about the third section here, where you go Tan Sao, Gan Sao, Tan Sao and Hun Sao, rather than trying to do all of it like that, at first take the energy out. So just look at where it's going and where it should end up. So you're checking your fixed elbow distance, you're checking where's my wrist, where's my elbow in relation to my wrist and my shoulder, is it lying along this path here, and then just practice getting to the right position without necessarily throwing it out and expecting to have energy in it. Once you've got this point, you can add energy. That doesn't mean as much energy as you could possibly put into it. Just start with a little bit. Try and, you know, you don't have to practice full power everything as it would be performed in reality, in application every time when you practice. No one does that. No one practices anything else like that. No one practices any sport like that. There are always elements that go into whatever it is you're trying to perform, and they're always isolated. So sometimes it takes a little bit of analysis on your part to work out what elements there are. But I mean, I could almost say that's part of Wing Chun, you know. It's in some circles, some not, it's considered, you know, the thinking person's martial art, because there is an element of analysis that can go into it. So when you're performing Tan Sao, think about what's going into this technique. Where's my centre of balance? What is my elbow doing? What muscles am I using? You know, an obvious thing in this technique is, am I using any bicep? Well, no and yes, because obviously here the tricep muscle is shortening, which is extending the arm, but the bicep has to be engaging somehow, otherwise it would do this. The shoulder muscles have to be engaging, otherwise you'd be doing this. So even though we're focusing on the elbow and saying it's mainly the tricep muscle doing most of the work, it is, but there are other muscles at play. So you could do an exercise like put your Tan Sao out and then just see how much relaxation you can build into your bicep muscle whilst still keeping the shape. You can hold it here and then actively try and isolate the muscles, so you could tap on them to bring your attention to them. You can feel how much tension there is in the muscle and actively try and relax it as much as possible. You can even let it relax it to the point where you start to lose the shape and then engage it again So you're trying to find that balance between having the muscle engaged but as relaxed as possible. And obviously there are other muscles working in the hand, so when we say the fingertips are relaxed, well, they're obviously not completely relaxed, you're holding it there somehow, so you can try and just work out this feeling and then start to extend the hand, still trying to retain that information or that feeling that you worked on before here. So you can, there's quite a lot to practice in just this movement before you start to try and apply it at speed against a resisting opponent. So you can work on just getting that shape out, keeping nice and relaxed, and then you can start adding a little bit of energy to it. And then you can trace the path moves from, you can trace the path the technique takes from, for example, Tan Sao to Gan Sao, back to Tan Sao. Now do it slowly, because then you're going to appreciate any mistakes you're going to make. Maybe when you go down to Gan Sao, it's going outside of the body, so that's past your leg. Why would you ever do that? If it's outside of the width of your body, it's not going to hit you. So keep it within this body shape, otherwise it's wasted motion. When you do this movement here, are you just pivoting or are you thinking forwards? You don't have to apply it with speed and energy to be thinking forwards. When you go down here, think forwards, 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 forwards. And as I go down here, to stop the pivot, I do go forward slightly. Extend and back, extend and back. And you can take the same methodology and apply it to your wall bag training. So rather than trying to whack it as hard as you possibly can, just working with impact, but still trace the move. So for example, if you're here with a turning punch, this punch should be aiming to hit straight forwards, so if you drop it, you should just be able to extend. And you can work on that movement. It helps have a focus point, so I'm working with impact, but I'm not hitting it hard, just working on the path, making sure they're going forwards correctly. Then you can start working on, if you're working on the wall bag, as an example, you can start once again isolating. So throw the punch and then the little torque at the end when you make contact. So remember, we're relaxed all the way, all the way, all the way, and then, well, ideally it would be on contact, all the muscles will contract, and that's not just in the arm, that's the whole body, and the torque of the body comes behind the punch. But in reality, it's usually going to be about an inch before contact. You can still work on that without going full power. So I'm just going slowly forwards and then learning to use the body mechanics without having to slam my fist into the wall bag 50 times, and reducing the amount of time I get to train because my hands have to recover. I don't want to do too much. Obviously you can wear light protection like I mentioned before, but you can do it without it and just work on those body mechanics. You can work on throwing the punch, so talking about using Chun turning, my hips move first, then the upper body engages and they arrive together. Here, in fact that's a little too hard, I should listen to myself. Just learn to work with it. Learn to work with the weight, so just practice dropping your hand. It's almost like it does this sort of hammer motion, but rather than bending here, it moves forwards like this, but it still drops. So you can work on just the weight of the arm dropping. You can work on the weight of the arm dropping with the body coming behind it, just to add to the impact. You can work on Chun Q, using the first part of Chun Q to generate the torque, to land, and then afterwards the body drives it all drives it home with the muscles engaging. And you can work on that from Chun punch, bong lap fak sao, bong lap punch. And once again you can slow down bong lap. Find, take control, punch. And you can really slow it down, because then you can see what you're doing. Are you doing this? Is your wrist coming forwards? You lifting here? Now, it's doing it slowly, it's hard to get that relaxation of throwing it forwards, but the path is going to be correct still. And with the lap sao, you're also learning not to come back too far. This is where it comes, this is as far as you need here. So essentially it's wu sao, but with a control. You could do double gan sao punch, you could do quan sao punch, quan sao punch, you could work low punches, you could work with pak sao punch, pak sao punch, pak sao Chun punch, pak sao Chun punch, pak sao bong sao punch, pak sao bong sao lap sao punch. So you can work all of these coordinations, but the difference is you're slowing them down and you're trying to get inside the technique to find how it's working, why is it functioning. When you're punching, is your elbow coming in as much as possible? Here, my elbow comes in. You could work on rising punches like these, rising low punches. But how is the technique functioning? What makes it work? And then take it apart and work on each aspect. You could work on relaxation. You could just take punches and just nice and relaxed. Throw it forwards. Now we haven't even talked about the body yet. So when you're throwing them forwards, where is your weight? Where is your weight in all this? You can work on just throwing. When I say throw, it's the relaxation. You're just landing it, just throwing it forwards. Here. You can work on taking fak sao and making sure it's going forwards and not chopping, not pivoting on the elbow, but driving forwards. So take it apart and just relax. Now, if you've got some sort of reference point like this with a bit of resistance that allows you to do your techniques, you can also take it apart in other ways. So you could work on lap sao, just the lap, here. You can in fact go to the position you'd end up in for lap sao, just work on this little body mechanic here, where you're just dropping the arm down and using the hips here. You could then go a step further. So if you imagine you've done lap sao here, the next move probably would be this follow up here. So you can practice going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I'm just applying the lap sao here, stepping forward, applying a little bit of energy here. That's what I'm practicing. I'm practicing applying lap sao energy and going forwards with a strike. So if you're not practicing that in isolation, the chances of you doing it crisply at speed under pressure are pretty low. So get the muscles working so they know what they're doing. Get those fast twitch muscle fibres happening. Are you switching off? So to make this work, after the lap sao, you have to be immediately switched off for two reasons. Number one, if you don't switch off, someone can take advantage of it. So if I do a lap sao here and I'm still switched on, I'm still gripping, if they're here and they pull back to punch, I'm going to get pulled into the punch, which I don't want. Secondly, if I'm then to do this move here, well, I need to switch my muscles off. They need to be ready, already switched off, to then do another movement. Whether that's a strike, or maybe it's a cover, or a low cover, or whatever's needed, whatever you feel from this position, your muscles need to be ready, relaxed in a state that allows you to address whatever the situation calls for. So make sure you're switched off, which is another thing you could practice. You could practice applying a hip, then switching off, and then practice seeing how fast you can go forwards after switching off. Here. Like so. You can take, for example, when we're talking about the punch, keeping your elbow in, if you've got a fixed point of reference, you can practice jump sao and then just put a punch on the end of it, just to check your covering. In this instance, you can put some sort of striking surface up. I don't have anything myself. I have occasionally put focus mitts on, just so I can practice covering the elbow and striking at the same time. So once again, it's taking something I need to know how to do, covering with my elbow down, covering a strike and hitting at the same time. I want to isolate that. I want to know, can I do it? Is it working? So I just work out a way to do it and practice it. That's the sort of mentality you need. One of the best ideas I saw for this was Ho Kei in Hong Kong, Sifu's Kung Fu brother. He put a car tyre up, like half one, and attached it to a wall. He can practice his kicks on it, practice his knife strikes on it. It's great. He thought, I need something I can hit and practice striking with the knife. And what you do realise is, once you start playing with the knives, is it's quite difficult to find stuff to hit unless you're happy destroying it, and probably knives as well. So that's his solution to the problem. Car tyre works great. And you can do the same thing. Just try and find ways to practice whatever it is you're working on. And this is just one of the best tools. Some sort of fixed object here, a centerline reference to practice on. And it's all in your imagination what you can think. So for example, this move here, that's 2 punches. There's the first one, second one comes, lap sao. Here. And there's a million things you can practice just with this. As an example, you could practice the fact that I'm not going bong sao and then just grabbing it out of thin air. Here, there's a bu sao there, because what I'm going to do is bong sao, and then when the next one comes, this goes forwards to find. If there's nothing there, you strike. If you find something, you deal with it. So there's the bong sao, find, apply. Bong sao, find, apply. So what I'm saying is, you can slow down, pull apart techniques and just work on little things. You can have a week where you just spend a week just being relaxed, just going through techniques as relaxed as possible. Just trying to work on maybe just flow. The only way you're going to flow is through relaxation. You might want to practice energy at the end of the technique. So you could do all the same things you were doing before, but now you're practicing the end of the technique, the contact point here, trying to get little, just the last end of the energy. We haven't talked about footwork, but obviously there's loads of other things we can do about footwork, and I might do a little bit about that next video.